On this week's Road to Peace, we take a look at a documentary film on the recent meeting between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Chinese President Xi Jinping, aired on Pyongyang's KCTV. We also shed light on the possibility of three-way economic cooperation between the two Koreas and Russia. Lastly, we take you to the DMZ Peace Train Music Festival that has turned a symbol of war into a cultural hotspot.
Hello and welcome to our program. Following South Korean President Moon Jae-in's state visit to Russia, much attention is being given to a possible three-way economic cooperation between the two Koreas and Russia, in addition to the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. On this week's A Road to Peace, we discuss the prospects and implications of the trilateral cooperation. But first off, we will shed light on North Korean culture and society reflected in the country's broadcasts. Let's take a look at a short clip from the country's KCTV.
조중 신선을 가장 소중히 여기시는 분, 중국에 대한 열렬한 신선의 감정과 믿음이 남다르신 김정은 동지를 최대의 국빈으로 또다시 맞이한 중화인민공화국의 수도 베이징. 석 달 안팎의 짧은 기간에 세 번째로 이루어지는 두 나라 최고領導자들의 역사적인 상봉은 혈연적 요대로 이어진 조중 두 나라 친선 단결의 불패성을 다시금 과시하는 중요한 계기로 됩니다. 경의하는 최고領導자 동지께서 습근평 동지와 함께 어린이 관용대열 앞에 이르시자 어린이들은 두 나라 국기와 꽃묶음을 높이 흔들며 열렬히 환호했습니다. 회담에서는 국제사회의 비상한 관심과 기대 속에 성과적으로 진행된 역사적인 조미순의 상봉 결과와 그에 대한 평가와 견해 입장이 허상 통보되고 조선반도 비핵화 해결 전망을 비롯한 공동의 관심사로 되는 일련의 문제들에 관하여 유익한 의견 교환이 진행되었으며 논의된 문제들에서 공통된 인식을 이루게 했습니다. 습근평 동지는 김정은 위원장 동지께서 조미순의 상봉과 회담을 성공적으로 주도하시어 조선반도 정세를 대화와 협상의 궤도, 평화와 안정의 궤도에 올려 세우신 데 대하여 높이 평가하고 진심으로 되는 축하를 드렸습니다. 베이징시 궤도교통지휘센터에서는 베이징시의 지하철도 노선들과 궤도전차 노선의 운용에 대한 종합적인 감시와 지휘를 진행하고 있습니다. 경의하는 최고領導자 동지께서는 베이징시 궤도교통지휘센터의 자동화 수준이 높고 통합조정체계가 훌륭히 구축된 데 대하여 경탄하게 된다고 하시면서 센터가 앞으로 세계적인 교통지휘센터로 더욱 비약하며 더 큰 존재를 이룩하기를 축원하셨습니다. 최고領導자 동지께서는 습근평 동지의 세심한 관심과 배려 속에 훌륭하고 만족한 방문을 진행했다고 하시면서 중국 당과 정부가 매번 각별한 마음으로 뜨겁게 맞아주고 환대해주고 있는 데 대하여 사의를 표하셨습니다.
대동강에 펼쳐진 또 하나의 아름다운 선경을 화면에 담고 싶은 충동이 우리들을 대동강호로 이끌었습니다. 한 번에 300여 명의 손님들을 봉사할 수 있게 여러 개의 식사실과 요리장, 상점으로 이루어진 대동강호는 물 위에 펼쳐진 한 폭의 그림과도 같았습니다. 대동강의 물결을 유유히 해가르며 평양의 아름다운 경치를 부감하는 멋도 좋았지만 연회장에 펼쳐지는 흥겨운 노랫가락 또한 대동강의 아름다운 풍치를 더해주고 있었습니다.
건조 중에 있던 우리 배에 멈서 어르신 경리하는 원수님께서는 이곳에 무대를 설치해서 인민들이 식사도 하면서 노래도 부를 수 있게 해주자고 사랑을 담아 말씀하셨습니다. 이제 대동강에 현대적인 식당배가 오르내리며 인민들에게 봉사를 하게 되면 우리 평양의 모습이 더욱 아름답고 이채로워질 것이라고 먼내 만족해 하셨습니다.
정녕 인민들 생각으로 잠 못 이루시고 인민들 생각으로 새날을 마주시는 우리 원수님의 헌신과 로고 속에 인민의 꿈과 리상은 땅 위에서도 물 위에서도 현실로 꽃펴나고 그로 인해서 내 조국은 또 얼마나 아름다워지는 것입니까? 어느덧 아름다운 평양의 하늘이 어둠이 깃들기 시작했습니다. 어둠은 모든 것을 삼켜버린다지만 인민의 행복 넘친 웃음소리는 밤을 모르며 끝없이 메아리치고 있었습니다.
우리 인민들에게 최상의 문명을 최고의 수준에서 누리게 해주시려는 경의하는 최고領導자 김정은 동지의 현명한 영도 밑에 대송산 기술계 자연박물관과 중앙동물원이 특색 있게 솟아나 인민의 기쁨을 더해주고 있습니다.
누구나 한 번 보면 성차지 않아 또다시 찾게 되는 중앙동물원이어서 여기 새롭게 확장된 수족관에도 관람자들이 흥성이고 있습니다. 작은 형광고기로부터 무게가 수십 킬로나 나가는 물고기에 이르기까지 훌륭한 생태 환경에서 서식할 수 있게 꾸려진 수족관. 바다 동굴처럼 형상한 원형 수조홀에서 바다 거북이까지 보게 되니 마치 영궁이라도 들어선 기분입니다. 중앙동물원에 오면 침판지의 재주를 봐야 웃음집이 터질 것 같습니다. 침판지의 재주에 뒤질세라 재롱을 부리는 저 곰들을 보니 마치 동화의 세계라도 온 것 같지 않습니까? 여기선 꽃사슴들이 인사까지 보내니 참으로 흥겨운 마음뿐입니다. 몸집이 크다고 결코 둔하다고만 보아서는 안 될 것 같습니다. 보십시오. 얼마나 재치 있는 동작입니까?
참으로 인민에게 안겨줄 천만 가지 새 문명과 행복을 위해서라면 하늘의 별이라도 따오시려는 경의하는 본소님의 숭고한 사랑의 세계가 수많이 깃들어 있는 중앙동물원의 매 동물사들마다에는 날의 날마다 이것을 찾는 인민의 기쁨 넘친 모습들이 끝없이 넘쳐 흐릅니다.
For today's discussion, we're joined by Choo Jae-woo, Professor for Chinese Foreign Policy at Kyung Hee University. It's great to have you with us today, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
So we just saw KCTV air Kim Jong-un, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's third summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Yes.
And what caught my attention was the Chinese children greeting Kim with holding up flowers and cheering very enthusiastically for Kim.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of how North Korean children are also present on North Korean state events.
Yes, that's right. You're not the only one who was surprised by the scenery, but I was pretty much surprised too, as the world was, because receiving foreign guests with children dancing and shaking flowers and so forth, that has been a socialist traditional way of receiving foreign guests by former socialist states, and China has done it for a while up until the early 90s, but they haven't done so in a while. And in the previous cases, when even Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, made numerous visits to China, but there wasn't such a reception at all. So it was kind of surprised, but the scale was much smaller. So I don't know what the intent was to show that kind of display of welcoming Kim Jong-un visit this time, because in the previous two visits to Beijing and Dalian, the Chinese Communist Party didn't have that kind of display of welcome to Kim Jong-un's previous two visits. So this time in Beijing, I don't know what the intent was.
The video also shows Kim visiting the traffic control center in Beijing.
Yes.
And also in the inter-Korean summits, Kim Jong-un made a very rare admission that his country's transport systems are very poor, it's underdeveloped.
Yes.
Do you think Kim Jong-un is very interested in developing and improving its transport conditions?
Yes, I think transportation means a lot to North Korea's economic development purposes, because transportation system is the basic infrastructure that could facilitate economic development in the country. So Kim Jong-un might naturally be interested in improving its transportation system, not only in the city of Pyongyang, but also the whole country. Especially once you get out of Pyongyang, the transportation system and infrastructure is very underdeveloped. So in order to really boost the national economic development on the whole, then he might have to be really interested in improving the transportation system of North Korea. But this time, visiting Beijing's transportation system, it showed the embodiment of modernization and automation. So I think that's where he got really interested in.
I think it was also interesting to see how North Koreans enjoy their leisure time,
Yes.
going on cruises at Taedonggang River and visiting central zoos and aquariums. What did you think of that footage?
Wow, I was really surprised by all the facilities for the amusement parks, zoos, and the ferry on the Taedonggang River. It was really shocking to see. I think it shows the achievement of Kim Jong-un's Pyongyang policy that he immediately pursued after he took over the leadership in 2012. Pyongyang policy, it's a dual-track policy, which means that North Korea wants to pursue both economic development as well as nuclear weapons development program. So we all know that on the nuclear front, it has done so. And on the economic side, we are not too sure how much Kim Jong-un was able to advance his country. But by looking at the footage today, the amusement park and the zoos and the ferry and so forth, I think it shows that to a certain degree he has achieved his goal, one of his goals of Pyongyang policy on the economic side, because one of the goals was to improve the people's quality of life. That was one of his major goals, and I think it all started with Mashingyang Ski Resort back in 2012 and 2013, and I think that received a lot of world's attention too. When we were hosting Pyeongchang Winter Olympics this year, there was a talk that Mashingyang Ski Resort will be one of the event sites for the Olympic Games, but it didn't happen. But South Korean ski team was able to go there and have their own practice there.
Now, moving on to the latest developments on the Korean Peninsula, South Korean President Moon Jae-in sat down with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, on June 22nd,
Yes.
which is only 10 days after the historic North Korea-US summit. How critical do you think is Russia's cooperation in achieving peace and denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula?
Yes, Russian role has been really underestimated over the years, because I think Russia is very much overshadowed by the presence of China and the United States, and as well as South Korean government. But what we have overlooked about Russian role is that Russia can play a joker's role. It is one of the 5 United Nations Permanent Security Council members, as well as it has close ties to North Korea, and it has been a great supporter to the Chinese cause of shielding or defending North Korea's cause for lifting sanctions and all these criticism from the international community. So from that perspective, Russia could be a joker here, and then we have a great interest, we might have a greater interest than we expect on utilizing Russia, because Russia could have some channels of communication, direct channels of communication to Pyongyang, as well as it could have some communication influence to Beijing as well.
Now, during the summit, President Moon kind of emphasized that his new northern policy is very similar to Putin's new eastern policy.
Yes.
Could you help us understand what these two policies are and how they're similar?
Yes. They're basically connecting Asia to Europe. That's the fundamental goal of the policy, and they want to do it so by connecting the transportation system between the two continents. And the common denominator of the two countries' policy, Russia and South Korea, is the utility of North Korea. But how are we going to utilize North Korea? That is common challenge facing the two countries. And for that common cause, that's what really facilitating our cooperation and consultation on this particular policy.
Now, speaking of railway connection,
Yes.
There are growing hopes that trilateral economic cooperation between South Korea, North Korea, and
Yes.
Russia could happen very soon.
Yes.
How likely do you see this happening in the future?
Oh, I would personally say, it might take some time. I'm not pessimistic, but I'm not optimistic either.
You're just realistic.
Yes, that's right. Being realistic, I think it might take some time because it all depends on North Korea's decision. Because North Korea, if it wants to open up the country, then it might really facilitate the process. If the process is facilitated, I think the progress is going to be a matter of time. So I think it all boils down to North Korea's decision to open up itself. And once it does so, I think Russia and South Korea are ready to go, and they're going to connect the railroad together.
Now, connecting railroads and gas pipelines
Yes.
were the key agendas for Putin and Moon summit
That's right.
recently. But also North Korea and South Korea had their inter-Korean railway talks
Yes.
on June 26th.
Yes.
Do you see the possibility of the connection of railways happening very soon, not just between the two Koreas, but also for the three countries very soon?
Yes, I think they're going to have a working level meetings, the follow meetings pretty soon too. Once that makes extensive progress, then we can expect probably railroad connecting. I think they're going to have a field study pretty soon,
Right.
probably next month. So if that's the case, once they're done with their field work studies, then I think they can advance to further discussion of cooperating and making substantive progress on the construction of the sites and so forth. But one critical question remains here. North Korea has to be really determined to open up the country. If that's not the case, because connecting railroads, it means they're opening their doors to South Korea, and I think that would be a very tough decision on North Korea's part. And if they can make a brave decision on that part, then we can expect a further progress to be made.
Now, I think the first thing that pops into a lot of people's minds when we speak of economic cooperation is the Kaesong industrial complex.
Yes.
But for some reason, the two sides aren't making progress in reopening the complex.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes, Kaesong industrial complex is still under the sanctions of the United Nations, if not the United States. And as a member of the United Nations as well as Security Council. And South Korea has a responsibility and obligation to abide by the sanctions that they have voted for. So as long as the sanction is still there, then we cannot really be proactive and opening up or resuming the Kaesong industrial complex. But as a member of Security Council members, if we make progress with our Inter-Korean Summit and denuclearization process, and we have some grounds to ask the United Nations, to lift up the sanctions, some of those sanctions, and that'll be under one stipulation: as long as North Korea stays away from making, military provocations such as, nuclear tests and missile tests, then if they stay away from those kind of activities for some time and show some good and benign behavior, then we might have some excuses and justification to persuade the United Nations.
But the international community has been saying recently that until North Korea completely and verifiably denuclearizes, there
Yes.
won't be any easing or scaling down of sanctions.
That's right.
So you're saying that even if they show some signs of its commitments,
Yes.
it will be possible?
That's right, because I think this is where people get, people has a little misunderstanding here. The United Nations resolution is different from the sanctions of the United States. United Nations resolution strictly is imposed because of North Korea's provocations. And it is a penalty against North Korea's bad behavior. So as long as they change their behavior, then there's a possibility that the United Nations could be convinced and persuaded to lift up the sanctions. But the United States case is really different. It's aimed at reducing the direct threat from North Korea, as well as from its past history of being an adversary state, communist states, socialist states, terrorist supporting state, and so forth. So there's a lot of layers and names and labelings to North Korea's sanctions, so that's a different kind of story here.
Thank you, Professor, for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A building in the demilitarized zone in Cheollon, Gangwon-do Province has walls riddled with bullet holes. It was a regional office of North Korea's Workers' Party, but the legacy of inter-Korean separation is no longer a place of pain and suffering. Let's find out more.
The former regional office of North Korea's Workers' Party and 월정리 Station are both located in the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, a buffer zone extending 2 kilometers on either side of the military demarcation line, bisecting the two Koreas. One of the many legacies of the Korean War is the regional office of North Korea's Workers' Party in Cheollon, Gangwon-do Province, which was one of the bloodiest battlefields during the war. The Soviet-style office was built by Pyongyang's Workers' Party in 1946, when Cheollon was under the jurisdiction of North Korea. Much of the building was ravaged by the Korean War. Today, only exterior walls and support beams stand in the ground. But the painful remnants of the past have now found a new purpose. They provided venues for the DMZ Peace Train Music Festival, a musical celebration of newfound peace on the Korean Peninsula.
DMZ에서 과연 이게 페스티벌이 열릴까 굉장히 걱정을 많이 했었어요. 근데 다행스럽게도 또 이제 평화 분위기가 이루어지고 또 평창 동계올림픽을 통해서 또 북한 선수단도 참여하고 또 두 정상이 만나고 또 미국 정상과 도널드 트럼프와 또 김정은이 만나면서 이게 저희 페스티벌이 결국은 한반도 평화를 가는 어떤 중요한 문화적인 매개 역할을 하지 않았을까 한다고 생각하고요.
Cha Jin-yeop, the choreographer of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics opening and closing ceremonies, presented an original performance with a contemporary dance group.
사실은 감히 저희가 이곳을 어떻게 해석을 하고 그 역사의 기억을 더듬어서 그것을 함부로 표현하기엔 되게 조심스러웠어요. 하지만은 멋진 작품을 보여주고 공연을 한다기보다는 이런 공간에 와서 좀 추모하는 마음으로 희생자들을 좀 기리는 마음으로 좀 참여하고 싶다 해서 이번에 기쁜 마음으로 참여했습니다.
The sophisticated choreography made full use of the historic venue, catching the eyes of the audience.
예전에 중간중간에 여기가 전쟁이 있었던 장소잖아요. 그런 싸움이 있었던 장소인데 뭔가 하나둘씩 더 보게 된 것 같아요. 총탄 자국이라던가 그런 설명들을 해주시면서.
The former Workers' Party's office is transforming into a cultural and tourist hotspot. It has hosted a number of concerts and other cultural events and welcomed visitors from home and abroad. Another venue of the DMZ Music Festival was 월정리 Station, the abandoned northernmost train station in South Korea. Kang San-e, a son of North Korean refugees, was one of the South Korean musicians who traveled to Pyongyang in April for joint performances with North Korean artists. He sang for peace against the backdrop of the remnants of a train bombarded during the Korean War. At the music festival's international conference held in Seoul, Seoul Mayor Park Won-soon and renowned performing arts promoter and festival co-organizer Martin Elborn shared their insights about peace and music.
저는 문화의 힘, 예술의 힘이 굉장히 크다고 생각하고요. 특히 지금 우리 DMZ Peace Train이 바로 또 그런 역할을 한다고 생각하는데요.
It feels like a world-changing event. It's You know, to me, it's like being in Germany when the Berlin Wall came down. I'm very excited, and thank you for helping this happen, and thank you for your great hospitality.
The two men shared the view that art and culture offer an excellent starting point for inter-Korean exchanges. Musical performances continue into the night in the DMZ in Cheollon. Visitors were mesmerized by beautiful music conveying the message of peace and hope.
And it's nice to see so many people getting together, having fun, listening to music and forgetting about everything else. It's great.
이렇게 공연도 열고 다 같이 함께하는 문화를 형성하는 것 같아서 참 좋아요. 너무 좋은 것 같아요. 평화 그리고 이 철원이라는 지역에 너무 어울리고요.
한반도만을 위한 평화를 위한 그런 페스티벌이 아니고 전 세계 갈등 지역, 분쟁 지역을 해결하기 위한 페스티벌로 점차적으로 커나갔으면 좋겠고요. 또 세계적인 뮤지션들이 이 DMZ에 와서 또 평화를 위해서 같이 함께 노래하는 그런 페스티벌이 됐으면 좋겠습니다.
What was once a decades-old symbol of war and separation is now turning into an iconic place of culture and history.
This is all we have for you today. We'll be back next week. Thank you for watching.